Welcome back to The Perspective with Hollaback Jakarta. Angie, I understand most of the movements that are I find that most movements or initiatives that are most effective are those based on personal stories, personal experiences.
Storytelling changes the world. Yes.
Experiences, personal experiences and stories changes everything, and it brings more people to the forefront to speak about it. So this is how you were associated with Hollaback.
Yes. So my story is I've lived in this city for going on 10 years, and I think if you look at trends around the world, harassment is more likely to occur in cities because more people are around and it's more time in public space. And so the catcalling aspect was actually quite normalized for me. I kind of learned, it bothered me, but kind of learned to ignore it. But one day in January 2016, I was riding my bicycle to work, and I was at the time in the Block M Gandaria area, and I was riding my bike to work. It was quite early in the morning, but it was already light out. There were some people around, but not many. And all of a sudden, a motorcycle came up next to me, and the man grabbed my breast, and he looked at me and he said, "Hello, sayang," like, "Hey, baby." And I was shocked. We were still moving, mind you, both of us, me on my bicycle, him on his motorcycle.
You were just dumbfounded.
I was dumbfounded, and it took a moment actually for me to register what had actually happened. You get that horrible, like, sinking feeling. You feel sick in your stomach, and then when you figure out how to react, you scream. He's already riding away, and he just looked back at me. I think not so much satisfied that he had like copped a feel, but satisfied that he had managed to horrify me in such a way. And so I was, like you said, I was dumbfounded. I was upset, in tears, continued riding my bicycle to work. And when I got to work, I started messaging my friends on WhatsApp in different groups saying like, "Hey, this happened to me. Be really careful if you're in Gandaria near this street." And then I started getting responses from people saying like, "Oh."
So it was first for you to just give a warning out there and say, "Please be careful. Take good care of yourself."
Yeah,
this is happening
like if this happened to me, like
it can happen to anyone.
Yeah. So I sent them messages, and people started sending messages back saying like, "Oh yeah, something like that happened to me before," or "I know someone that it's happened to before." And that really spoke to me, like, wow, like this maybe is happening a lot here in our city. So I remembered hearing about Hollaback on social media probably a year or two prior, and so I went on their site because this was and still is it's traumatic. So I was trying to figure out how to cope, and one way for me was like, okay, let me find out more information about street harassment. I remember this source. And so Hollaback, I saw it's like a story sharing platform where people can share stories about street harassment or harassment in public space, and then it's displayed on their website, and you can read people's stories and click this button at the bottom that says "I've got your back." So you share your story to other people, and then other people can support you just by clicking a button, almost like a like on Facebook, right? So I looked on there, and I read some stories, and then I went to their, they have a take action page. I was like, what can I do? And one of the things is to find a Hollaback in your community. So I went on, and there wasn't anything in Southeast Asia even, so let alone Indonesia. So I was like, there was another button that says click here, don't see one, click here to start one. Like, okay. And then you filled in a form. It had some information about their global site leader program. I went back to WhatsApp, messaged some friends, and said, "Hey, you guys want to help me do this? I really, really want to try to do something about this." And they said yes. So we joined the site leader program, which is online for it's about 7 months total. And in July 2016, we were given our site from Hollaback and access to the app. To soft launch, and we had our official launch in September 2016.
So when you received that certification from Hollaback, what was the first thing that you did?
We did, so in the process, one of the things you have to do in the training program is to do things like community mapping, try to look at who are other groups doing work on this issue or related to this issue? Who can we work with? What does it look like here? Because it is a global movement powered by local activists. So it's like a decentralized leadership. So other than the site and the app, other activities on the ground, so to speak, are determined by each community's needs. So we've been doing a lot of that, a lot of ongoing community mapping, and just talking to people to figure out what can we do to, like I said, further ignite conversation about this issue.
Because of the prevalence of street harassment here in the city, any part of the world, though, it wasn't difficult for you to reach out to people who could be part of your ecosystem and help you grow Hollaback Jakarta.
So I really think that even though, so we collect stories on the site. There's a form, you can fill it out, same on the app. The app is available on iPhone, Apple and Android devices, so you just put your story in. You can fill it out in detail, or you can just tick a box and say I was verbally harassed, and you put the address and it maps it out too as verbally harassed here, and you can leave it at that, or you can tell more saying how you feel, anything else you want people to know about the situation. So we have collected about just over 130 stories so far, but I really think that is like the tiniest tip of the iceberg. There was a story that went viral the other day, starting on the application Line. A woman had caught on camera somebody harassing women on the train. He was exposing himself and trying to rub himself on them. And even just online, the screenshots that she got of this on the application Line, there were already 8 people who came forward saying, oh yeah, I've seen that guy before, he's done this to me before, I saw him doing that to women before. That's one person's story, that's 8 people just in that limited scope of whoever she was able to communicate with online. There's 9 stories right there that probably were given in just an hour. So I think that it is happening a lot, and people, when someone else starts talking about it, they're more willing to talk about it. And once we talk about it, like you said, stories can change the world, then we can try to figure out how to change it. Why are women and other historically marginalized groups unsafe in public spaces?
All right. Since it was launched in September 2016, there has been a lot of activities by Hollaback Jakarta, working with other really caring and passionate movements such as Hollaback Jakarta. We'll talk more about that, but if any of our audience wants to know more, have questions, take part in Hollaback Jakarta, or even perhaps create their own Hollaback in their own backyard, Angie, where should they go? You
should go to jakarta.ihollaback.org, and from there you can find us on Instagram, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, you can also find us on Tumblr, but we haven't really developed that very well yet. But the other 3 are very active, so you can find us there. We are working on getting volunteer positions up on Indorelawan, so there are many ways you can get involved. We are happy for anybody and everybody to visit our site, our social media, and talk to us to figure out how we can move forward with this.
All right, jakarta.ihollaback.org. We'll be right back.